Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. You're really enjoying my videos and I'm also enjoying making them. So yeah, today we're going to read Supernatural Horror Reddit story, and trust me, this one gets really intense. So relax, grab a snack, sit back, and put the video in 1.25x for a better experience. Before we get into the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel goal is to reach 100 subscribers before the end of next month, and I'm sure we can do it. Anyways, let's get into this Supernatural Horror Reddit story. I checked on my elderly neighbor. Something is horribly wrong with her. I am sitting on the cold tile floor of the bathroom. It's locked. Aiden is huddled next to me. I can see the shadow of her feet under the door, hear her ragged breathing through the wood. I know one thing for sure. That is not Mrs. Tillman. Every Wednesday afternoon, my brother and I go to Mrs. Tillman's house. She pays us to do some chores, like clean up her pantry and cook her some dinner. She's in her 80s, old enough that her parents and siblings are deceased, and her only child lives a few states over. This Wednesday afternoon, as usual, I let us in through the back door. But not as usual, the house was completely silent. Usually, she has the TV running and calls out to us as soon as she hears us come in. Not today. The house was completely silent. "Stay here," I told Aiden as I left the kitchen. She was well into her 80s and, well, if she'd passed away, I didn't want him to see. I walked into the TV room where her daybed was set up. The TV was on mute, black and white Grace Kelly on the screen. The mantle was bare of photographs, as usual. Mrs. Tillman had given all her photos and personal items to her daughter years ago. I noticed a thin trail of water on the floor near the bed, shining in the dull light. Maybe she had an accident and went to clean up. I walked around the house, checking each room, including the bathroom. Maybe someone visited her and took her somewhere, but the only person to do that would be her daughter, and I didn't think her daughter was coming to visit anytime soon. She wasn't able to go up the stairs anymore, so there was no use checking up there. I went back to the kitchen and shrugged. "She's not here," I said. He lit up. "So we can go home?" "Probably, but..." I pulled out my phone and tried calling her daughter. 3 rings and it went to voicemail. "All right, I guess," I said, depressed by the fact that Aiden would probably spend the next 4 hours on Roblox. I wondered if I should just hide his computer. Our mom wouldn't do it, and with almost a decade between us, didn't I get some kind of seniority here? He was just going to rot away. The tiniest noise came from upstairs. Something between a wheeze and a little moan or whimper. I glanced at Aiden. He grimaced. I walked over to the stairs, gripping the banister, looking up into the darkness. "Mrs. Tillman," I called. Silence. Then, "Emma?" She sounded disoriented, confused, like she was trying out saying my name for the first time. What happened? Did she fall? How the hell did she get upstairs? "I'm coming." I ran up the stairs. Aiden followed after me. I shoved 2 of the doors open before finding her in the largest bedroom. She was lying on the made bed, faced away from me, her breath coming out in ragged gasps. "Are you okay?" I called out. "Yes, just..." Another ragged gasp. "Just what?" "Come here." All my alarm bells went up. Mrs. Tillman was very talkative and very blunt, never one to beat around the bush or be cryptic. Something must be seriously wrong for her to just be saying, "Come here," instead of "I hurt my leg" or "Call 911. I took a few steps towards her, staring at the back of her head. "What's wrong?" I asked again. "Do you..." She sucked in a rasping breath. "No... what?" I stepped closer. She took in another wheeze. "It feels like... to die, Emma." I froze. "What?" Her voice didn't sound right. Not really. Slow, relishing, excited. More like something wearing the timbre of Mrs. Tillman's voice, something mechanically making the right sounds but with intent completely twisted upside down. What the hell? She's disoriented. We have to call someone. I reached for my phone. A crackling sound shot through the room as she repositioned herself, rustling against the covers. Aiden grabbed my arm. I glanced back to him. He was white as a sheet. I glanced back at Mrs. Tillman. She was sitting up on the bed now, head lolling forward so her white hair covered her face, wrinkled hands in her lap. I ushered Aiden out of the room. "Everything's fine. I think she needs a doctor," I said, my voice shaking. We headed down the stairs as I fumbled for my phone. We passed through the hallway towards the kitchen. "Emma?" It was coming from the bathroom. I stopped dead. Mrs. Tillman?" "That thing out there," she said, her voice shaking. "It isn't me." I rushed into the bathroom. Fuck. I'd never checked in the bathtub behind the marbled black shower curtain. Footsteps thumped down the stairs and I pulled Aiden in, slamming the door shut behind us and locking it. "Mrs. Tillman." I pulled back the shower curtain a few inches to see her face, eyes wide and scared. "I was taking a bath and that thing came into the house. I'm sorry I didn't respond to you before. That thing, it can imitate voices. I wasn't sure it was actually you." "Did she hurt you?" "No, I just stayed quiet. I don't think it knows I'm here yet." My heart was pounding so fast I could barely press the right keys to dial 911. I hurriedly told them what was going on and our address, hoping they would come fast. "There's a woman who broke into the house," I told them, tripping over my words. "It's not a woman, it's a thing," Mrs. Tillman replied behind the shower curtain. "A doppelganger. It took my form, made itself look like me." I hung up the phone. "That's impossible," I said, even though I knew that the old woman I'd seen looked exactly like her. Except for her face. I hadn't seen her face. Thump. Footsteps sounded right outside the door. I turned to see the shadow of 2 feet under the crack. Aiden whimpered and clung to me. Brady talks about them," he whispered, squeezing my arm. "He calls them death mimics. I don't know what they're really called, but they're like attracted to the energy around someone when they're dying. They transform to look like them and then they dump the body in a creek for the gators." "That's just a story," I replied, my voice shaking. "He's right," Mrs. Tillman said. "I've heard that story too. Please get me out of here." "They said they'll be here in 10 minutes. Thump. A knock at the bathroom door. "Emma," Aiden whispered so quietly I could barely hear him, clinging to me so hard my arm hurt. "What?" I hissed, staring at the door. He glanced back at the shower curtain, turned back to me and tugged on my sleeve. The door shook as the old woman pounded harder. "What?" I whispered, so quietly, just a hush of air. "How did it know what she looked like?" he whispered, so quietly, just a hush of air. I stared at him. "She said it didn't find her yet," he whispered, glancing back at the shower curtain. "So how did it know what she looked like?" The gears began to click into place. I stared at the shower curtain. There were no photos of Mrs. Tillman up anywhere, not that I could remember. If she were hiding in the bathroom this entire time... "Sometimes it's more than one mimic," Aiden whispered. "It doesn't have to be just one." I stared at the shower curtain. As water sloshed, as Mrs. Tillman arose up far too tall, her white hair appearing over the curtain rod, then her pale forehead, then her eyes. Black as ink. Aiden screamed. We shrank back towards the door, shaking as the other mimic pounded on it. I pushed myself in front of him, shielding him, as this one curled its long fingers around the curtain rod. A smile curled up its lips, revealing sharp, gator-like teeth. And then, a crash. Voices. There was commotion outside, a dull thump. "All clear," someone shouted, and I twisted the lock and burst out of the bathroom, pushing Aiden out ahead of me. "Another one in there," I shouted. 2 officers burst inside and I heard a gunshot and then a strangled screech. Mrs. Tillman's body was found in the canal behind her home. The police never officially released what happened. 2 intruders in the home were neutralized. That was as much detail that came out. There seemed to be a tacit understanding among some, though, people that knew that it was the death mimics or whatever they were actually called. I took some peace in knowing that Mrs. Tillman was dying anyway. I thought everything was going to be okay. I thought we were moving on and this whole thing was put behind us. Aiden was even spending more time hanging out with friends, regaling them with the tale of being trapped in Mrs. Tillman's bathroom at the hands of death. And therein lies the problem. I was shielding Aiden in that bathroom, about to die. I took a walk last night, a walk around the pond at the far end of our development. As I walked through the palm trees, I spotted something on the opposite bank moving in tandem with me. A woman, about my size, with long, dark hair like me. It was too dark to see for sure. I stopped and stared at her across the water. She mirrored my movements and stopped, staring back at me. I tore my eyes away and kept walking. When I looked back, she was gone. Several ripples cutting through the glass-like surface of the pond. All right, guys, that was today's story. Imagine finding out the real Mrs. Tillman was already gone, and the thing in that house wasn't just one mimic, but possibly more. And now, something might be following her. That ending, that's what makes it worse, because it doesn't feel finished. It feels like it just started. If you enjoyed this supernatural horror story, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're getting closer to 100 subscribers, and I know we can reach it soon. And if you want more, click on the video coming on your screen.